Welcome to another DCS video, and today we're going to be looking at the lowly SA3 SAM, which most people assume are of little threat, especially to anything carrying harm. And with a 10-mile range, that seems like quite a reasonable assumption. But that assumption is very, very wrong. I'm going to show how an innocent looking SA3 can actually kill you from 40 miles, and how, if you're within the 20,000 square kilometres that it protects, you might be dead within 20 seconds. Now I selected the SA3 as that's probably one of the least formidable SAMs in most people's eyes. Well, the ideas in here can be applied to most other multi-node SAMs such as SA2s, 10s and 11s, and to a lesser degree things like SA6s. First of all, I'm going to attack a vanilla SA3 and show how little a threat it is. And then we'll see what happens when we apply some thought to an SA3 site and see how dangerous we can make it. Finally, we'll go to the editor and see how it's done. Let's now get airborne and head to the targets. Okay, we're now on board. As you can see, we have a search radar ahead, which is actually a vanilla SA3 site from the mission editor. We're carrying 4 harm, so that's no threat to us whatsoever. Let's just lock that up, and it's showing at just under 23 miles. I think it's actually closer to 30 miles. And Magnum. Now that's going to go on its way and hit the flat face search radar with almost certainty. We're now showing the tracking radar, so let's lock that up as well. And Magnum again. Let's now look at the missile and watch it impacting the target. Shack 1 search radar. And there goes the tracking radar. The second site though is a whole different ball game. The first thing to notice is that it's no longer on our radar warning receiver, as it's set to only emit for 20 seconds or so and then go dark for a randomised period of time, roughly 60 to 90 seconds. So getting a precise fix with HTS is harder, and hitting the SAM with harm will be a matter of luck unless we get a lot closer to it. Our intelligence guys have done their thing and told us where the SA3 is located, and that's loaded as a threat ring. We can see that HTS thinks the SAM is farther away than it probably is and is likely to be in range. So let's launch a harm and hope that it catches it whilst emitting. The missile flight is probably 1.5 to 2 minutes at this range, which is about 45 miles, so we're perfectly safe. And right on cue, we are being lit up by an SA3 tracking radar. There's nothing showing on the HTS, so all we can do is take evasive action And at this altitude it's going to take around 30 seconds to get onto the SA3's radar. And now we have a missile incoming, and I have no idea from where. And that's me dead. Now I could have pulled a high G manoeuvre and maybe avoided that, but without knowing where the missile was, it would have been a bit of a lottery. And this video isn't about how to avoid SAMs, it's about how to make them dangerous. And speaking of dangerous, or not dangerous in this case, our poor old Harm has flown 33 miles past the SAM, and if it's lucky, it might kill a camel. Or maybe not. So, how on earth did I set all this up and get an SA3 to shoot us down when we seem to be so far out of range? First of all, I set up a fake threat ring. Now, threat rings are based on intelligence reports and loaded into the aircraft by the ground crew, and that intelligence could be out of date, incomplete, or just wrong. So what I did was to create an SA3 site, and then immediately after mission start I removed it, leaving the threat ring in place using this trigger. Now I wouldn't use this all the time as its effect will be nullified and people will get used to it, so just use it sparingly. Secondly, I'll set the search radar to turn on and off for a randomized period of time. I recommend setting it to turn off for between 60 and 90 seconds for an SA3, but it would depend on the SAM site. Longer range SAMs could have bigger pauses as an aircraft will take longer to fly through its coverage zone. For an SA3, I've set it to come on for 20 seconds as that's about the minimum time an SA3 needs for the tracking radar to be directed towards an attacker and begin tracking. But this will vary for other SAM types. We also have this mission start trigger, which sets it all in motion by activating flag 1. However, instead of having it at mission start, you could initiate this when an aircraft crosses a border, for example, by creating a trigger zone at the border. Let's now take a look at the site itself, and first of all we can see that this one is hidden on the MFD, so it will not show a threat ring. Most importantly though is the placement of the units. The search radar can be many miles from the tracking radar. Here it's 25 miles, but it can be more. However, line of sight is important. Having both in a different valley isn't going to work, so hilltops tend to work best, and that can place practical limits for finding locations which are far enough apart and can see each other. Then there's the distance from the tracking radar to the launchers, and here we have 5 launchers, one in the centre, presumably near to where you actually want to defend, and the others are up to 15 miles away. Then of course you have the 10-mile range of the missile itself. And so with several tracking radars and enough launchers, a single SA3 search radar could potentially cover over 20,000 square kilometres of airspace, though 10 to 15 is probably more realistic. Bearing in mind that a default SA10 site only covers around 11,000 square kilometres, that's pretty impressive. You could make this even more dangerous by having multiple search radars which switch between active and inactive, and I've covered that in a separate tutorial. Or you could add standby search and tracking radars which only become active if the others are destroyed. The SA3 then can be used to deny high altitude airspace over a wide area, and when combined with short range point defences around targets can make attacking those targets a lot more difficult. That just about wraps up this video, so if you found it useful, please do hit like and subscribe. Meanwhile, I need to take out that SA3 site, and for that I'm going to need the right tool for the job. And here it is.